As a researcher myself, I'm big on education, and both of us are in the education field. I see a lot of uses for artificial intelligence, particularly with education. We can tailor lessons. We have different people that learn at different types of wavelengths. So, what I wanted to ask you, I've been teaching for over 10 years as an adjunct, and you and I talk about this frequently about the kinds of students, the different kinds of classes, and how students are progressing in the field. What are some takeaways you've seen teaching that AI could assist you more when you're teaching?
Great question. I've used AI in a couple of ways, and will continue. As I lead graduate level residencies, as well as have taught in different university settings, graduate students mainly. So I've recently started exploring using it for ideation. I've also used it in terms of just testing different learning modules just to see if I can expand upon it. So I've found that to be very fascinating. But more recently, I've been using it actually in the classroom to help the students learn how to use commands effectively. I believe, and we've talked about this, that AI will be ubiquitous. It's already in many instances for those of us who are using, devices, like our iPhone, or you're using Microsoft Word, where the co-piloting is already starting. But my concern is, can these students use the commands effectively? And so I've been using that. So most recently, I was working with a group of students in a business school, and we were working on branding statements. And so I had them craft a branding statement. And then I asked them to use the AI feature of their choice to see if they could then, improve upon it or get more ideas. And for those who were not as familiar, they were really blown away at one, how quickly, it was able to take that content and maybe enhance it, but also to help them ideate more, and then also to refine their commands so they can get more effective output. So that's how I've been using it. I have talked to others who use it for grading. It cuts down time in terms of getting students feedback. I've also spoken to others who are encouraging students to test it and to learn to use it at greater capacity. So I probably will be bringing that into the classroom in January when I start teaching again. So I think the uses are unlimited. It's just a matter of people using it effectively and safely.
Yeah. And what I've noticed from teaching at some of the newer classes that I'm getting is now, I know, Dr. Candice, you're familiar with Safe Assign and Turnitin. Now there is a proofreading tool at the bottom. And the other week, I had a student say, "Hey, I wrote my assignment. AI is giving me 100%." And I gave that student a zero. I said, I clicked on the resource, and this is AI generated material. So in the field of education, now when we even write our syllabuses, we have to make sure we put in there no AI can be used, because what students are doing, they're getting behind in the work and they're using AI to catch up on everything. I've even played around with ChatGPT, and it is amazing at some of the things it can do. But what I always tell people is artificial intelligence is artificial. It is man-made, and it is only as good as the information that it can retrieve and produce. Artificial intelligence is going to revolutionize the world and create numerous fields. When I do interviews and when I talk to people firsthand, I let them know this technology is life altering, but the great potential of it to change the world is here, but it's going to need people to maintain it and make sure it is doing its job correctly. So, Dr. Candice, when you teach or when you give your speeches, I've actually seen you speech twice. It was at the World Fairs Council back in December of 2022, and you were a remarkable speaker, and back at Clark Atlanta. When you give speeches, are you talking to your audience members, or when people come up to you about this technology and the jobs and the fields that are going to be created from it?
I do. And it's interesting. So, as you know, I'm here in Atlanta, New Georgia Beach. And earlier this earlier this spring, in May, Sam Altman came and spoke to students, along with John Hope Bryant and the president of Clark Atlanta. And he talked about it. And here's what blew me away. The first is how many young people,
Mhm.
and when I say young people, I'm including myself in that, but younger people,
Yes.
younger people are already using and have created businesses looking at
Yeah.
the gaps in terms of service delivery or technology. And so, many of them are already aware. I mentioned to you my research just in terms of, Black women with 75%, already knowing about AI. I mean, many of them are using it to start businesses. So I do talk about that and, what the future will look like and what skills they need in terms of creativity and creative thinking and critical thinking to be able to
Mhm.
leverage these tools. I'm also not really seeing fear in the younger generations about it. And I think it's because many of them are early adopters. And I've already mentioned, for the past several years, co-piloting has already been taking place in the background. So
Mhm.
I do talk about it. And when I lecture graduate students and talking about their fields or their area of research or the companies that they're representing, people are pretty future forward, looking and thinking about it. And so it's a great conversation. And I sense lots of excitement and enthusiasm and curiosity. So it's not like, for example, a decade ago when I was talking to individuals about generational values and how they're going to impact the workplace, and everyone was like, what are you talking about, Lily? Now people are embracing it a lot more, and there's excitement. So a lot of optimism and actually a lot of pride that people are thinking about their careers and how technology is going to help them get the most out of their careers.
Well, that's great. I have noticed that too. And I'm going to piggyback off of that. Many of the young people are not afraid of artificial intelligence. As you stated, they are embracing it and using it to create businesses and completing several other tasks with it. But what I do tell the young people is just remember the technology, as I stated before, is not foolproof. You can't always take what you get from artificial intelligence and use it as just 100% error proof, saying, I put this in. This is what I received from it. So you have to be careful on that aspect. And I also talk about the jobs. I talk about the AI engineers, the AI auditors, the AI ethics. We were talking about the bias earlier. And I always talk to folks about don't always complain about a problem. Be the change you want to see, because there are going to be millions of dollars, trillions of dollars created. And I mean, if you look at Nvidia, that company that got the $1 trillion valuation earlier this year, they build AI chips. So the potential for people, investments to change your life is here. And I always encourage people, we are in one of the best times of life. The opportunities that are going to come from artificial intelligence are going to be here, and you have to take heed of them. So, Dr. Candace, one last thing I want to ask you. You've said you've used artificial intelligence before.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would like to bring to the forefront that people haven't been really talking about? And when I say that, the regulations, there are regulations out there. There are ways it should be utilized. What are some other ways you're seeing it can be used that we haven't even thought about yet?
Gosh, that's a great question. What are some of the ways that people aren't talking about that we should use? So, I'm a big proponent of disclosure, making sure that you're keeping yourself safe. So you and I know we've talked about this, the
Mhm. Yeah.
interconnectivity of these technologies and, VR and, all the things. It's important as adoption increases and more technology is introduced that we're going to get to a place where people may think that they're interacting with a human, but it's actually AI. And when Sam was here in Atlanta in May, he talked about some of the benefits, for example, with the elderly who may have isolation issues. And so they can use, an AI tool to have conversations, or people who are having learning challenges or need more explanation where they're using these tools to be able to increase their knowledge or help them solve problems. What's going to be really important, though, is that they understand that they're talking or communicating with a tool rather than a human. And so the disclosure and regulations around making sure, and I'm not sure what that is. So for example, sometimes when we're communicating with the company and then you hear a certain type of tone, you're being recorded. If you're in certain places, a disclosure window will pop up, and if you're logging onto a website or you're in some type of application. And so I do believe there needs to be some regulation or standardization around that and making sure that you know.